let's talk about something we love to talk about, partisan politics and presidential candidates and their respective proposals. Let's share the differences between the two candidates that I'm sure you're familiar with, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. What are they proposing? Again, this is not a complete analysis of everything. We're just trying to take some highlights in areas that we think you need to be up to speed. So let's start with Ms. Harris and her key proposals. So Vice President Harris has basically signed on with the American Housing and Economic Mobility Act of 2024. So the Vice President has put this out as her proposal. And income tax, again, we're not really focused on income taxes, but just at a high level, there's talk of increasing the individual tax rate for high earners over $400,000 or couples over $450,000 of income to increase that to almost 40%. And there's a talk, and we talk about 1031 exchanges in some of our other presentations. There is talk of or a proposal to limit tax-free exchanges to a $500,000 gain. So right now you can do 1031 exchanges no matter how big a gain is, as long as you follow the 1031 exchange steps, you can avoid capital gains taxes. The Vice President's proposal is to limit that to $500,000 in gains. But now let's transition to her estate and gift tax proposals. And these are just proposals. We'll talk about why proposals are not always, you can't always rely on those. There is talk of imposing a capital gains tax upon passing. So again, just proposals, but there's an idea of taxing unrealized gains, capital gains at death above a $5 million exemption per person. So right now you could have $50 million in capital gains. Now there's a separate estate tax issue, but that is all wiped away. Your family does not have to pay any capital gains taxes. Your kids would inherit with no capital gains tax exposure. Here, if you have a gain in your entire estate of over $5 million, there would be a capital gains tax bill due. The annual gift exemption, right now it's $18,000 per person. You can give it to as many people as you want. You can give $18,000 gifts to 20 different people. There's a proposal to lower that to $10,000 per person and to limit it to 2 people. So you can only give away $20,000 per year tax-free. The estate tax exemption, this is probably the biggest thing that we're keeping an eye on. The proposal from Vice President Harris is to lower that from where it's currently $13.61 million. It's $10 million indexed with inflation going back a few years to $3.5 million per person. So a dramatic drop in the estate tax exemption. You own a house in many parts of California, that house alone could expose you to estate taxes if the exemption is dropped to $3.5 million. And the estate tax rate is currently 40%. It's flat, 40%, whether you have $1 billion exposed or $1 million exposed, there's a 40% tax from that. And Vice President Harris has proposed increasing that to 55% for the first $13 million exposed, 60% for the next tier up to $93 million, and a 65% tax for estates with taxable assets of $93 million or more. So a dramatic increase in the estate tax rate and a dramatic decrease in the amount that you can pass to your children or grandchildren or loved ones. And Mike talked a little bit, we've talked in many other presentations about discounting and different strategies that we can use to dramatically reduce estate tax exposure. And part of Vice President Harris's proposals, she's proposing to eliminate a lot of those tools. So to basically say you cannot do discounting anymore. You cannot create defective grantor trust. So don't worry about the details, but a lot of the strategies that we can totally legally use right now may become disallowed if these proposals were to pass. So from an estate tax planning and estate planning perspective, we got to be aware of this because this could be coming. We don't know. We'll talk about different scenarios in a moment. And Mike, why don't you lead us through former President Donald Trump's proposals and what he's saying or not saying?
So there isn't really a whole lot that has been said. He's been talking about the issues, but more around the issues, the things that we think are more likely than not. We do have this termination of the current tax laws that would happen at the end of 2025. At minimum, he would seek, we believe, to extend the current law, which means it would continue to be indexed upwardly, continuing what is now the 13.61 million. It would go to 14 and upward from there, extending the current law rather than having it sunset at the end of 2025. The cliff wouldn't happen as a result of that, if that were the case. As significantly, no envisioned changes have been recommended with regard to the tools that Mark alluded to. There's GRATs, there's irrevocable trust, there's discounting. There's so many tools and techniques. Later, we'll give a screenshot of the book that we author that summarizes all of these tools and techniques. So none of those would be eroded from any current proposals that have been made by the Trump campaign.
So now I think let's go through some scenario planning. Let's not wait for these deadlines to come up. Contact us at gilfix.com, 650-493-807. Share this if it's your parents, your grandparents who need to see this, because you're the one who's going to get hit by these taxes, because really a lot of these are taxed when someone passes away. I hope you got a lot out of this. And regardless, hope everybody out there is, as my mom likes to say, safe, sane, and healthy. Stay healthy, everybody. And thank you so much for spending some of your time with us.